At just 4 weeks old, she nearly lost her life in a senseless shooting. Now her mom is speaking out.
Elizabeth Matthews is here now with that story. Elizabeth.
According to this 1-month-old baby who turns 2 months old on Saturday is lucky to be alive. She was shot in the head earlier this month in Inglewood. Today we sat down with her mom and learned that 7 years ago she was also shot in Inglewood. She tells us her family is now done with this city.
Wow. Think about this, man. Neither one of these stories is like shocking. The 1-month-old being shot, I mean, or whatever month old, like, that's not like rare in Chicago. Like, that's every other day. Some child under like 8 is shot. And a lot of times it's 1-year-olds. Her being shot, the sister being shot, that's like twice a day in Chicago. In the stand combined, all of the Stanian provinces, oh my God. But this sister is leaving because her 1-year-old got shot. And she was shot 7 years earlier, but she didn't leave then. Now, not to pick on this sister, but you do read the paper. And in Chicago, you don't have to read the paper. When you're a Sun person, all you got to do is just the local scuttlebutt. You know, the streets talk and all that stuff. You know, there's always shooting. It's a very violent area. Other people's kids are always getting shot. Since leaving is an option, wouldn't it have been prudent to leave before the 1-year-old got shot? I mean, after you got shot. Now, don't get me wrong, you might not have met your baby daddy and had your baby, but they got baby daddies in other places, man. I'm going to tell you why she didn't move, and I'm telling you it's not financial. But I'll give y'all a second to kind of figure out where I'm going with this. Why she didn't move. Why this young woman who was shot 7 years ago didn't leave the city where she was shot. Do 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 do. Because it doesn't matter anywhere she goes. With her income where she's able to live at, is going to be the stand. Okay? It's going to be the Sun Belt. And Chicago is like the 30th most violent city in the country. D.C. is just as violent as Chicago per capita. Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, St. Louis. Well, St. Louis is worse. Baltimore. Well, Baltimore's worse. New York. Philly. Well, Philly's worse. Newark. Columbus, Ohio. Anywhere in Ohio. Gary, Indiana. Anywhere this woman would have moved within the Sun Belt, which is where she probably can afford to live, Because she wasn't smart like Patrice Cullors to get y'all money. She wasn't no hustler like old Tracy. So anywhere where she gonna live, because we tend to live around each other. We tend to live in cities. And when we live in cities and then you live in low income housing or, working class neighborhoods in cities, you're gonna tend to be around, even though they may not be predominantly Sun people. It doesn't take that much. All it takes is 10% of the population to be Sun people to make it a violent area. An area where you have to have initiatives to stop violence. The mayor got to hold a press conference every week to plead with the public to stop the violence. The police chief got to twice a week hold a press conference to plead. Activists got to have different rallies every week to plead with the people to stop the violence. That's what I mean. All you need is 10% of the population to be Sun people for that. Little 1-year-olds getting shot every week. So there's nowhere where she could have gone to get away from this. Okay? In her mind, realistically. Now, she could move to Boise, Idaho, or Fairbanks, Alaska. But realistically, she wants to live in a city and maintain her current lifestyle, public transportation, low-income housing, jobs, daycare, all that stuff. Public services programs, social services. She gotta live in an urban environment. And there's nowhere where she can go where she can escape this, man. Point blank. That's why she didn't move when she got shot 7 years ago.
This 1-month-old baby, who turns 2 months old on Saturday, is lucky to be alive. She was shot in the head earlier this month in Inglewood. Today, we sat down with her mom and learned that 7 years ago, she was also shot in Inglewood. She tells us her family is now done with this city.
I'm getting up out of here today. I got to leave Chicago. I love the city, but I can't stay here anymore.
Taisha Banks says her daughter, Tariana, continues to recover like a champ. We're blurring her face to protect her identity as the victim of a crime. At just 4 weeks old, she was shot in the head while in a car seat near 66th and Halstead. That shooting was caught on surveillance video, shows 3 men getting out of a black Jeep and firing in all different directions. Tariana, along with 6 adults, were wounded.
Is this what LeBron was talking about? Because this happens every day, multiple times a day, in every Blackistanian outpost, province, principality, territory, municipality, anywhere. This happened. Like, listen, I don't think y'all understand how often 3 men jump out of a car and start spraying in all directions. I think y'all underestimate how often that happens. This is the post I saw on social media the other day. Name me the other community where posts like this are necessary. This is where pleas like this are necessary. It's very common for 3 men to exit a vehicle and shoot in every direction at a crowd of black people. You know what's not common? 3 white men jumping out of a vehicle and shooting at a crowd of white people. Whenever that happens, it's on CNN for a week. That lets you know how rare it is. When the last time you remember seeing wall-to-wall coverage of a white guy jumping out of a vehicle or pulling up or running up and shooting in the crowd of white people? When was that? Maybe like a couple months ago? There was one in Boulder. There was one in Milwaukee. I'm trying to think when the last one was. This happens every day in every city in Blackistan. To the point where there's got to be, please, to the public, please stop killing the women and kids. Kill the men. That's how you got to be like. You got to be like, okay, kill the men. Fine. But please stop killing the women and the babies. Because you know they're not going to stop killing each other, the men. That's what we do. That's what we do. Actors, rappers, whatever. We've completely debunked that it's because of poverty. We've debunked that. NFL players, artists, I'm talking about platinum, multi. We've debunked the whole poverty is the root of this stuff thing. It's obviously the culture. Obviously. But, yeah. 3 men jumping out of a vehicle and spraying a crowd of black people happens every single day in every city. Louisville, Charlotte, okay, Savannah, Mobile, Little Rock. We not talking about the big cities. Every city. Every day.
Says her daughter, Tariana, continues to recover like a champ. We're blurring her face to protect her identity as the victim of a crime. At just 4 weeks old, she was shot in the head while in a car seat near 66th and Halstead. That shooting was caught on surveillance video, shows 3 men getting out of a black Jeep and firing in all different directions. Tariana, along with 6 adults, were wounded. The bullet, which is still in Tariana's head, broke her skull but did not puncture her brain.
I didn't ever think my baby was gonna die. Because she was just looking at me like, Mama, what happened? She never stopped breathing. You know, I never had one doubt in my mind that she was gonna leave me. I did.
The strength on that mom's face. So Tariana will likely need more surgeries in the future, but right now she is progressing very well. Police say no one's in custody for the shooting, but they continue to investigate. We'll have more on Tariana's story and hear from her mom coming up on the 9 o'clock news. Corey and Don.
The Austin Police Department is asking for the public's help to track down a suspect involved with a shooting in North Austin. Police say it happened last Tuesday at the El Pollo Rico restaurant near the intersection of Interstate 35 and Runberg Lane. APD says the suspect approached the victim from behind and fired 1 round into the victim's back. The victim was later transported to a nearby hospital.
That be's a sand son man or a bad hombre. Y'all off the hook on this one. Son people. It never ceases to amaze me how many of these things are caught on camera, man. Cameras have had no effect in deterring this type of behavior. And I mean none. It's gotten worse with the proliferation of cameras, even though there's other factors that have made it worse. Nevertheless, there are more cameras, probably 100 times more cameras now as there were in the 80s and the 90s. And now we're going back to the 80s and the 90s. Salute to those cops back in the day that used to solve crimes and used to catch criminals, man. Like, it's just amazing. Like, they didn't have this stuff. And they still knew who did it. Well, that's obvious because they know who's doing it now. Like, the cops know. Never once was there a shooting in my neighborhood did the cop come up to me and say, "Man, there was a shooting. Get down on your knees and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest." They know who be doing it, man. And it's most of the time repeat offenders. Most of the time known gang members or known members of cliques and crews. They know who be doing this stuff.
APD says the suspect approached the victim from behind and fired one round into the victim's back. The victim was later transported to a nearby hospital with serious injuries. The gunman is described as a Hispanic or Middle Eastern man in his late teens or early 20s. There he is. APD says he also has a sleeve of tattoos on his right arm, and he may be driving around in a dark gray or black Mazda CX-3. The police department also looking for this suspect they believe was involved in a drive-by shooting in South Austin. Police say it happened last week at a warehouse on Todd Lane. That's near the intersection of the interstate and State Highway 71. Witnesses telling APD that there was a social gathering at the warehouse when a car drove by the building and opened fire, which seriously injured two people.
Told you. It's very common for someone to come up and shoot to a crowd. Some people. Very common. Austin. Texas. Seattle South, Portland South, wokety woke. Every day, sun violence and ombre violence.
Was a social gathering at the warehouse when a car drove by the building and opened fire, which seriously injured two people. The gunman was reportedly captured on a security camera video with a firearm. He's described as a black man in his mid-20s with dreadlocks. Anyone with information about either of these incidents is being asked to contact the Austin Police Department.